Hello, I want to welcome you to Diaries and Discussion. I am your host, Kezia Warren. I am gardening today. Specifically, I'm weeding. Behind my family's shed. Why am I weeding behind my family's shed? Well, I'm weeding behind my family's shed in order to allow for the growth of more than just weeds. This part of my family's garden was, and I'm saying my family's garden for the sake of simplicity, because in fact, I acknowledge that I am on the unceded land of the indigenous custodians of this land. This is not my land. Perhaps I am this land's person. However, I must acknowledge that I am a white settler from a line of white settlers. Because in years gone by, my family settled here and continues to dwell. So technically, not only are we settlers, but we are occupiers. And that makes me sad. That brings me shame. And a way that I deal with that shame is to confront the responsibility of not only acknowledging where I am, who I am, and how I and others like me benefit from the colonial system. That we live in, but also to do things that might aid in the recuperation of sovereignty that was never ceded in the first place. See, unlike New Zealand and other countries, the Australian government, which is a branch of the British Commonwealth, that is to say, the British government, never made a treaty with the peoples of the land that they invaded. And I found a marble. And despite how uncomfortable those words, those expressions might make listeners or viewers of Diaries and Discussion feel, and although it might make me at times feel uncomfortable, I must acknowledge that is I find it wholly necessary, for the sake of ethics and fairness and honesty and earnestness, to acknowledge these things. I don't say these things to point score or far out. Got windy. Does it ever get windy, or is it always windy? Oh, I just found the foot of a toy soldier, a large green toy soldier, and I have a thought that I may be partially responsible for this toy soldier's leg being here. Because my family has had this patch of land. My family's had this patch of land for a number of decades. And throughout that number of decades, I have spent many years of my decades on this earth, in this body, in this human form, living on and benefiting from an extended stay and an extended lease or deed or title that grants us legal possession of this land. I've benefited from it. And part of that benefit is being able to play with toys. Isn't it funny? These simple things that are often overlooked. And for many of my years, I overlooked these simple benefits and privileges because there are many people who have a much more legitimate claim to dwelling on this patch and many other patches of land, if not all patches of land on this continent, than I ever have, or indeed ever will. I hope that in time I can do what is within my power as an individual within a community of individuals. I hope that I can do my part in ensuring that this land be given back over to its sovereign caretakers. I hope that what I do in terms of gardening weeding and propagation benefits not only me and my family, but all of the other people and creatures that inhabit and depend upon this land. When I was younger, I was of a mindset that had me thinking that full measures, that is to say, let me rephrase, if you will, if you'll allow me to rephrase. And isn't that an interesting thing to say? If you'll allow me to rephrase is a exceptionally English, an exceptionally English way of saying that. I hope you have enough patience to hear me out. I used to think that the best way to deal with evil was large and fast actions. And while I never did these things, one of the large actions that I once thought and expressed as a way to deal with evil was to kill all the bad guys. Excuse me. This is Banjo. Banjo's a Kelpie. I can't remember if I've acknowledged Banjo in this episode or not. But this is Banjo. Say hello, Banjo. Hello. That was me, that wasn't Banjo. What was I saying? I was saying something about what I hope I can do. I hope that by gardening in this way that I can, in a very small way, make progressive change to the world. I hope that by propagating edible plants, that not only will I not have to buy from greedy corporations such as Woolworths and Coles, and therefore financially add to destructive industries and economic systems. So, simply, I hope that, by... Oh, there's a big rock. Look at that big rock. That'll be helpful for something else. You can fill that in with soil. I hope that...
Kids, we're heading to the museum.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll see you later. Okay. That was my dad. Just then. Oh, can you hear the children? The neighbors? I'm not sure if you can or not. My neck's getting a little tired from turning to talk to you. You, the viewer. You in the camera. There we go. How's that? I hope that, by planting edible food, we can eat that and then not have to financially add to corporate greed of grocery conglomerates, because we won't have to go to them as much, but also that the plants will produce oxygen and that the flowers will produce pollen, and that pollinators will come, such as bees, and that carbon will be stored in the plants rather than in the atmosphere, and that a habitat can be cultivated for insects and small mammals, and that I can learn through this whole process a way to share knowledge and resources and philosophy of gardening with people, so that we can understand that sharing is really important. Because as I was saying before, I used to think that big actions, big direct actions, were the only way to do anything. Kill all the bad guys, for instance. I now see that as fruitless. Personally. To me, I want to reduce harm in this world. And the way to reduce harm is to increase healing. You ever heard the phrase, hurt people hurt people? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Speaking for myself, I know it's true. There are ways in which I've been hurt or traumatized that I have unwittingly or otherwise projected onto other people. Call that, quite simply, revenge, don't we? I hurt you, you hurt me, so I'll hurt you. That kind of thinking. An eye for an eye. But to paint a very sad and dramatic picture. If someone was to, for whatever reason they might have, kill me and my family and burn our house down, if that was to happen, and then someone who cared for me and felt the loss of me and felt hurt by that person's action decided to evenly distribute the violence that was put upon me and my family, and then go out and murder them and burn down their house, well then what would there be? There would be 2 dead families and 2 houses burnt down. Rather, if someone, instead of acting out of revenge, acted out of love and understanding, forgave that person, and instead of paying back with violence, paid forward with love, and investigated whatever motivations that person had for doing a violent thing, and then went about ensuring that those motivations were understood and then healed, and then having it that those motivations did not exist, well then, maybe they could do that by building a house and helping someone have a family. Maybe that person who did those horrible things to me. Well then, there wouldn't be 2 dead families, and there wouldn't be 2 houses burnt down. There would be one mourned family and another family grown and another house built. In the hope and the faith that love is a greater example than hate and destruction. The mindfulness that getting into the garden gives me is remarkable, I think. It's a meditative process. It gets me in touch with the natural world a lot more than reading books on how to garden better. Though that has its time. But gardening creates an opportunity to think while doing a task that I hope, that I have seen, to at least indirectly make the world, or realize for the world, a more loving culture. Love is so important. It's so important. And love is not an idea, it's not a feeling, it's an action. In fact, agape, love, is a series of actions done in coordination, in tandem, despite cruelty, in spite of violence, in spite of hatred, because you cannot destroy hate with hate. You only add to hate with hate. We take away hate. We take away from hate by giving to love. Some people might think that the squealing joy of kids playing might be annoying, and they might go, "Shut up, you kids." And then, well, what will I have achieved then? I will have created more anger, more discomfort. I hope those kids can play freely. I don't want to envy those kids and their freedom to express themselves. Sometimes I might want to. Maybe there's a part of me that currently does envy them. In fact, I must admit, there is. But if I give in to that envy, what will I do but cause more upset, more harm? And that is not what I hope to do, and the reason I hope not to do that is because I have done those things. And I have seen how much worse communities become. How much worse the world is for having done those things. So please, if you're listening to me, please, I urge you not to give in to anger, frustration, even at yourself. Do not destroy others or yourself. Love others. As you love yourself and love others. That, as I see it, is the duty of mankind. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it.